Okay, so now we've got our hardware installed, now electronics all connected up. The last thing we need to do is just a basic final setup. So I'm going to go through a basic final setup here. You'll probably want to come back to this and make more adjustments after you've become more accustomed to the guitar, more accustomed to the neck. For now, we're going to cover neck relief, action, which is the height of the strings from the fretboard, intonation, and lastly we'll have a quick look at our pickup height. First thing you want to do is make sure the guitar's tuned to concert pitch. You want to always make sure this is the case whenever you're doing a setup, and you're going to want to come back and check the tuning throughout. Okay, so the first thing you want to check is neck relief. Now, you don't want a dead flat neck. If you have a dead flat neck, you're going to run into an increased chance of fret buzz, which is essentially the strings vibrating against the frets. So a couple of ways to check this. If you've got a steel rule, you can just run that between the D and G strings. Just get down to eye level and check for clearance toward the middle of the fretboard. And you can use feeler gauges and things like that to get exact measurements there. The number's fairly arbitrary. It really does depend on your own preferences. One thing that is a little more intuitive is if you fret the low E at the first fret, the last fret, and then tap down on the 12th fret, if that string can actually move, as in it's not lying flat across the strings, you've probably got the appropriate amount of neck relief. If it's laying flat, you're going to want to introduce more neck relief. If it's too high, you're going to want to take some of that relief away. Now, the way to adjust your neck relief, just remove the base plate off the truss rod cover. Take your Allen key that should be part of your packaging. It will be in the same bag as your cable. As I said, I'm going to introduce more relief to this neck, so I'm going to want to turn this counterclockwise. And what that does is loosen the truss rod, which then allows the tension of the strings to take up and introduce more relief to the neck. So when you're doing this, I wouldn't turn more than about 1/8 of a turn each time and check. You also want to keep an eye on your tuning while you're doing this. Okay, and that's good. But that's what you do if you need to keep adjusting. Just turn the Allen key. As I said, turn it counterclockwise if you need to introduce more relief. Turn it clockwise if you need to take some of that relief out. Okay, so the next thing we'll have a look at is our action, which is the height of the strings from the fretboard. Now, this affects playability. Obviously, a high action, it's harder to press down on the frets. A very low action introduces the possibility of fret buzz. And this is subjective as well. I tend to like as lower action as I can get away with. Now, every guitar is always going to have some fret buzz. It's more a case of just limiting the amount. So as I said, I like to go fairly low. But if you're not sure, a good starting point is to measure at the 12th fret, and you're looking for about 2.4 mil clearance from the top of the fret to the underside of the string. And on the high E side, just to account for the mass of the string, we're looking at about 1.6 mil. So as I said, we just run a steel rule or a string action ruler like this one, and just sit that on the 12th fret, and we're measuring to the underside of the string. So this is just a touch high, so I'm going to need to just lower that a little, and we're pretty close on the high E side. As I said, this is subjective, but if you're not sure, this will make a good starting point. So what I'm going to need to do is just tighten the bridge post here. That will recess it further into the hole, and that will just lower the action a little. That's about right. So we got lucky there. It was only one adjustment. Normally it'd take a little bit longer than that, but that's how you do it. Just adjust the height. Also keep an eye on your tuning, obviously, as well. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is intonation. Now, intonation is essentially checking if the guitar's in tune with itself, and it's really just compensating for the additional mass of the string. So if we look at the bridge here, you can see it's on a slant. Just about all electric guitars will have a slanted bridge like this, and that's just to compensate for the additional mass of the bass strings. So if I fret an open E here, I'll just bring the camera around so you can see the tuner. So I fret an open E, get that in tune. If I hit with the same attack at the 12th fret, you can see we're just a little sharp. Not much, just a little. So the way to adjust for that, if your intonation is a little sharp, what we're going to do is move these individual saddles. So this is a little sharp. I'm going to want to turn this counterclockwise and move the saddle back further. If it was flat, I'd want to reduce the scale length of that string, or the vibrating length of that string, and bring it forward. And you do that just using a small screwdriver. Intonation adjustment screws are at the front of the bridge. And I would turn that clockwise, like I said, or to bring it forward, or counterclockwise to sit it further back. Sitting it further back will compensate for a sharper 12th fret note. So as you can see, if I bring the camera back around now, you can see I've overcorrected. So I just need to bring that saddle a little more forward. But that's essentially how you adjust the intonation. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is just check pickup height. Now pickup height's fairly simple, and again, it's subjective. It will come down to how the guitar sounds to you. But essentially the way to adjust it is to change these mounting screws at the side here. Now a good place to start is about 2.4 mil on the bass side and about 2 mil on the treble side, but we're holding down the last fret and we're measuring from the underside of the string to the top of the individual pole pieces. Okay, so we're a little high there. I'm just going to drop the height of that neck pickup. So counterclockwise to reduce the height. As I said, make sure you're holding down that last fret and measure from the top of the individual pole piece to the underside of the string. We're still a little high there, so I'm just going to reduce that pickup height again. That's pretty much spot on. Now again, after you play the guitar, you may want to make some changes there. It really will depend on what you're hearing. Okay, so that's pretty much how we do a basic setup. From here, we'll test the guitar. Now unfortunately I'm left-handed, so it's going to be a little hard for me to do a full demonstration of this guitar, but we're still going to run through the different pickup positions and just make sure everything's working correctly. Okay, so I'm going to start in bridge position. Middle position, which is a combination of the neck and bridge pickup, obviously. Volume's working there. And lastly, neck position. Everything's working there. So the next thing I would do is put the guitar into middle position, turn both volumes up to 10, and then take your hands away from the guitar. And you should hear no electrical interference or hum. If you do, it's probably an issue with your ground circuit. And if that is the case, I would just open up the electronics cavity again and just have a look at your ground circuit. Chances are one of the black wires that we soldered earlier has gotten loose, or you have a loose connection somewhere. Okay, now the last thing I would do is just check the neck itself. And what I would suggest is just running up and down the neck on each string. All the way, and what you're listening for there are any signs of fret buzz or any dead notes. And if you do come across any problems like that, pop the guitar up on the bench again and just have a look at your neck relief and your action. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed building your SG guitar kit as much as I have. Thanks for watching.